Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Laura Forsyth. I am Associate Professor at the Natural Resources Institute in the UK. I'm very pleased to be presenting Work Package 1's achievements for Period 3 for the RTBfoods project on behalf of the Work Package 1 coordination team, partners and contributors. Thank you so much for listening. Now, this is a very special annual meeting for Work Package 1, as it signifies to a large extent the end of this work package and the beginning of Work Package 5, moving essentially from consultation to evaluation. I personally have learned a great deal from the experiences of partners and engaging with partners over the past 3 years, which has been so very valuable to me both professionally and personally, and for that I'm really grateful. For today's presentation, I will provide a quick overview of Work Package 1 objectives, methodology, and commitments, followed by a description of our achievements pertinent to our planned activities for this period, and finally, our planning for Period 4. The main objective of Work Package 1 is to identify quality characteristics of RTB crops and final products for different user groups, how they may be prioritized, and the factors that influence these preferences for men, women, and other social segments. This was to be accomplished through a common, participatory, and interdisciplinary methodology, including food science, gender, and economics. The methods were grounded on a three-step approach developed by CIRAD, led by our own Work Package co-lead Geneviève Fledel in a previous CRP RTB project in 2015. For RTBfoods, we've adapted this methodology to include a socioeconomic, gender, and breeding focus and include a strong sampling framework in order to access the priorities of people who grow, process, sell, and consume the crop. Indeed, this has been a very tall order. Work Package 1 used a 5-step methodology. The first step is state of knowledge, an exercise to establish what was currently known and unknown about the crop and product from a multidisciplinary perspective. This step was completed in Period 2 and the results are available on the RTBfoods platform. Step 2 was gender food mapping, a mixed method consultation process in rural communities with people who grow, process, sell, and consume the crop. This was, of course, to identify quality characteristics related to the crop and product, but also included really important information on varietal preferences, types of decision making, and the role of the crop in other, perhaps competing products. Step 3 was participatory processing diagnostics, which was processing demonstrations with expert processors, usually women, to undertake measurements and diagnostics of specific processing parameters and to evaluate varieties on their processability. Step 4 was consumer testing in rural and urban settings to identify overall liking and sensory mapping of final products. Step 5 is the food product profile, which brings together the quality characteristics from the 3 steps into a table based on expert analysis of the data by the partner teams, considering gender and broader livelihood factors. This is output 1.2.1. So very kindly, Gerard and Tessie have agreed to lead a session on lesson learning around this methodology as part of our Period 3 annual meeting. And this will facilitate a reflection on this methodology and really draw out what worked and what needs to be improved for the future. So let's now get to our achievements. All the work for Work Package 1 has been completed for 11 RTB food products. Reports and databases for each of these steps are now available on the platform. These results have led to 16 peer-reviewed papers and a registered report on the methodology in a special issue of the International Journal of Food Science and Technology called Consumers Have Their Say, assessing preferred quality traits of root, tuber, and cooking bananas and implications for breeding. Work Package 1 coordinators, focal points, and partners are extremely proud of how much work has gone into this and how much of a contribution to knowledge this has made. All teams, without exception, have participated in at least one publication of the special issue. So for this, we're really proud. So I'll now present some of our research findings pertaining to the main activities performed in Period 3, which were mainly finalizing Step 3 reports and conducting and reporting Steps 3 and 4. That was a clip of market interviews conducted by the NRCRI and IITA team for Step 2 in Nigeria. So we have a number of interesting findings from this exercise across the countries related to Step 2. I'll try to summarize here. Firstly, our products are playing an increasingly important role in people's daily diets and household income. Demand for products was growing. People often related this to population growth, but also to the affordability of the products. When times are tough, these are the products that are purchased or prepared at home. There were exceptions, but local crop varieties were often preferred for these products. It confirms really how important it is to understand the characteristics of these varieties. And to do that, we need to ask the right questions to the people who know best. Agronomic and processing practices and gender roles associated with these practices differed between and within profiles, often within the same country. Factors such as ethnicity, migration status, and wealth. Practices such as intercropping, monocropping, planting in heaps or rows, wrapping your sweet potato in a banana leaf or not, the people who grew, managed, processed, and sold the product, are all related to sociocultural practices in certain regions, or adaptive practices often related to resource constraints. This means that our drive to standardize conditions, identify certain rules, must be balanced with the reality of the complexity on the ground. Different groups of people in different places have different farming, processing, and consumption practices. Our research needs to address this and findings put in this context. The versatility of RTB crops, especially cassava and yam, mean that breeders need to address the traits associated with a range of products as a priority. This will help producers and processors to flexibly meet the demand of different products, and therefore increase their resilience and adaptability in an increasing uncertain context. Another important lesson from our findings was that while there is a push towards the inclusion of sensory characteristics in breeding profiles, we cannot do so at the expense of agronomic characteristics that haven't been given much attention or included in breeding profiles. Findings across the countries and products show similar agronomic preferences. For example, characteristics such as quick maturity, minimal labor requirements such as the reduction in time spent weeding, in-ground storability, and the ability of the crop to thrive in intercropping conditions and poor soils are vital characteristics, particularly for women. There were also some indications of trade-offs between characteristics associated with different market segments. For example, good canopy cover with cassava was considered by smallholders as important to reducing labor, weeding labor, women's labor. However, there's a preference among large-scale mechanized farmers for smaller canopies to reduce the spacing requirements between planted cassava. There were some differences in people's quality characteristic preferences, often for the same product among different countries. For example, characteristics for boiled cassava in Nigeria were related to softness and sweetness. In Benin, a white flesh and crumbly texture was highlighted. In Uganda, a pink or whiter outer skin was preferred, and non-fibrous roots were also mentioned. This may not necessarily indicate differences in the desired characteristics, but in the importance of those characteristics within the varieties available in that context. In some cases, differences in quality characteristics prioritized by food chain actors were related to socio-demographic factors, particularly ethnicity or migration status. For example, gari in Nigeria, preferences regarding color and the level of drawability, softness and sourness differed across gender, region, and states.
17.05 kilograms for the second variety, 0.05.
That was a clip from the Work Package 1 workshop in Benin in Year 1 during the trialing of Step 3, Participatory Processing Diagnosis and Quality Characteristics. So I'll now present some of the findings under Step 3. So the most important features of a raw material and their corresponding product profiles according to processors during this step were density, shape, and appearance. Density was linked to yield and profitability, also to the quality of the product and the texture. Shape was linked to productivity. For example, the easiness of peel was linked to a good shape of cassava, yam, or sweet potato. Shape was also linked to maturity level of plantain and matoke and impacted on the processability of these crops and the quality of the end product. Regarding appearance, important criteria such as color and roughness of the peel were very important. With unknown varieties, processors were often not able to relate its appearance to the final quality of the product. Key findings on the processing conditions and vital characteristics for Work Package 2 and Work Package 5 to consider are the textural behavior of products during cooking. Cookability of the product is perceived by its texture, which must reach a certain standard sought by consumers. This corresponds to a certain degree of destructuring and hydration of the matrix, which varies according to product profile and local habits. The appearance of the final product is another vitally important feature. Factors such as color, shininess, and for some products profiles, the roughness aspect of the texture is linked to consumer expectations and the profitability of the product for the processor. Regarding sensory evaluation of the end products by processors, interviews with the 6 to 8 processors enabled the identification of a wide and relatively complete list of the most and least liked characteristics for color, texture, taste, and flavor, which are then used as descriptors for step 4. A mean value of the 25 most and least liked characteristics per product profile were obtained. These elements confirm the importance of interviewing expert processors in order to describe and characterize products to link with consumer expectations. That was a clip from a food market in Kampala during piloting of the tools. So I'll now move to step 4, consumer testing. It's worth a brief note of methodology. The quality characteristics related to the 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste, were gathered through steps 2 and 3 and aggregated in this step 4, and then associated with consumer hedonic testing. In this example with boiled yam and benin, we see that quality characteristics were identified in steps 2 and 3 and aggregated in step 4. In step 4, those quality characteristics were attributed with a positive or negative feeling using hedonic testing. For example, under appearance, pink color for boiled yam was regarded as a negative characteristic and white as an attractive color. For texture, stickiness was a positive characteristic and fibrous was a negative. This slide presents the results from the different teams in terms of the quality characteristics of the products, so you can see how many terms are involved in this. There are so many. So what can we say from this? Same terms come across for various products, but some terms, such as stickiness, could be positive or negative depending on the product. So for example, with boiled cassava in Uganda and Benin, stickiness is referred to as a positive characteristic. However, stickiness is seen as a negative attribute with regards to fufu or pounded yam in Nigeria. Some terms are always positive, such as sweetness, and that is shown in green. Softness is shown in yellow and tends to be quite universally positive, except in the case of plantain. Some criteria, as we found under step 2, does differ between context regarding to different ethnic preferences and cultural habits. For example, in Benue and Osun, Benue consumers like non-fermented eba, while those in Osun tend to like fermented or sour eba. The following graph shows the liked and disliked quality characteristics of eba in Osun and Benue states, elicited by processors through processing varieties that were very different from each other, to create variation and contrast. The liked characteristics generally are those that are white, cream in color, sour, good aroma and taste, sweet, neat, and moldable. Characteristics that generally were disliked were moldable, not sticky, not tasty, offensive color, impurities, dull, and dark brown. We will now move to step 5, the product profile. And the table that you see here was used in step 2 as the first iteration of the product profile. and it's a simplified version to identify the high and low quality characteristics, some indication of prioritization, their description of these characteristics, and also varieties that are associated with the characteristics. So the product profile is developed iteratively, step by step, to ensure that Work Package 1 informs the work of our partner teams in other work packages on a timely basis. This identifies the priorities for quality characteristics for Work Package 2 to correlate sensory characteristics with their physical chemical characteristics, but also Work Package 4 and 5, including important agronomic characteristics. So Period 4 will really focus on packaging this data for the project and public use. Another area of work that Work Package 1 is really proud of is our work on gender. So this year we established the Gender Working Group. This consists of mainly social scientists, 16 individuals to be precise, from 9 different institutes, and provides a more equitable approach to developing research outputs and publications involving cross-partner research. So the Gender Working Group undertook a gender analysis of Step 2 data and co-developed the Gender Output Report, Part 1. This report covers 9 RTB products and includes analysis of gender roles along the food chain, a gender analysis of varietal use and preferences, in addition to an analysis of preferences for quality characteristics of RTB products, from planting to consumption. The findings were presented at the GREAT Gender Responsive Crop Breeding Conference and the French National Research Agency Conference on Gender Research Methods. They were also summarized in a blog for the RTBfoods and NRI websites. So I did say at the beginning of the presentation that Work Packages 1's work is largely over. And it is, but there's still an important step left to do, and that's, as I referred to in the previous slide, about how we package our findings and how we disseminate it. So during this annual meeting, we will be having discussions with the teams and other work packages about how we do so effectively, and it will form the basis of our interactions with product champions. Now, I have to say, a lot of the communication with other work packages and transferring knowledge from Work Package 1 to the work of other teams has been taking place at the partner level, I think, but at the level of the project, this probably needs to be done better, and the focus for Period 4. Also, plans include methodology adaptation for the participatory varietal selection, which Work Package 1 and Work Package 5 will be working on together. There will also be a lessons learned session as part of this annual meeting that will inform this methodological development. And finally, there'll be some remaining work for the Gender Working Group, depending on availability and willing. We have 3 more research questions we would like to report on, and we're hoping to have at least 2 publications out of this work. So there we go. That wraps up this presentation. I just want to acknowledge the incredible amount of work and input that partners have fed into the results of this presentation, but throughout the last 3 years, it's been an incredible amount of work, and I've just valued the time spent with these individuals so very much. So I'm very grateful to them. Thank you. Other people I would like to thank, of course, are the Gender Working Group. The individuals that were working together on gender outputs are listed here. Also want to thank the Work Package 1 coordination team and focal points. Geneviève, absolutely, she deserves a huge applause. Tessie Madu, who's an incredible leader that I've learned a lot from. Alexander, of course, and Halle. Just need to give a shout out to her, especially who was formerly working with us on the coordination team. My colleague Aurélie Beechoff from NRI, my gratitude, also Isabelle Maribel and Uli Klein from NRI. Thank you very much. And last but not least, absolutely PMU. Dominique and Eglantine, your support through this has been incredible. Thank you.